The world does not run on headlines, it runs on people who care. I'm Peter Murphy Lewis, and this is People Worth Caring About. Alongside my co-host, Jaylene Carpenter, we sit down with the unsung heroes, caregivers, healers, helpers, the ones doing the real work, even when no one is watching. These conversations are not polished, they're personal, because behind every act of care is a story worth hearing. New episodes drop regularly. Get updates at peopleworthcaringabout.com.
My name is Benjamin VanDiest. I'm a sophomore at University of Nebraska, Kearney, studying exercise science with a nutrition minor on the pre-physician assistant track. And my senior year of high school, I got my CNA license, and I finally decided to use it this summer at Mount Carmel Nursing Home here in Kearney. And so I'm just going to come tell you about my story. Take one.
That is awesome. That's the best one so far, Benjamin. Tell me, why did you decide to study to become a CNA? Why did you become a CNA in high school?
So to begin, I took my CNA classes through my high school and taught through my high school nurse, and it was through one of the local community colleges. I was like, well, to be a PA, you need patient contact hours, and I thought CNA would become useful. It builds a lot of skills, communication, builds like compassion skills, and just being able to like take care of a person, And so I was like, well, I'm really not down anything, and so I took it, passed everything, and then I did not work my freshman year of college. And so then it was kind of expiring. So I was like, let me use it. And so I reached out to Mount Carmel and applied and got the job. And it's been good since day one. I've rotated through all their floors. They got I like to call it a swing bed unit. They're there because they've had like an injury, like a hip, a stroke, and they're just there for physical therapy, OT. Then they go home. Then you have like your true assisted living, and then they have like a memory unit. And I've been in all three, and it's just been good to see all three because they're all different aspects of like elderly. You have your unit memory care, and that's a little more challenging per se. But it's also fun to see like the growth and stuff. And then especially swing bed's one of my favorite because they're really motivated to go home because they can return home. And so it's just fun to track their progress and just be able to help them even when they're like on their lowest of lows, some days.
Were you a little bit intimidated having passed your exam about a year ago? Afraid that you might forget some of the terms, some of the SOPs, some of the things you need to follow?
For sure. And even the first couple times, I had to really knock off a lot of rust. But as I continued, I trained with someone. They didn't just turn me loose. But it was still like, kind of came back to me. Oh, I remember doing this. Oh, yeah, this makes sense. And a lot of it was just, I might have been scared, but I couldn't show it to the resident. It was maybe being like, hey, how are you doing today? And, just starting up a conversation to kind of ease my nervousness and not make them so worried. Because, a lot of them know that I was new, and they'd ask me about it. And a lot of them were really good about, well, here's how they do it, but you're still doing a good job. They were still all very supportive. And even my CNAs I trained with, the nurses I worked with, they were all super nice because everyone started where I was, so it just took some time.
Benjamin, you might be the youngest guest that I've had on the podcast, People Worth Caring About. How old are you?
I'll be 20 on September 15th, so my birthday's coming up.
All right. Congratulations. Happy birthday. What would you say to the 18-year-olds out there who might hear this, or the mom and dad who has a child who's 18, why they should give this a chance? What could they learn?
So first of all, healthcare is a great field. You get to go and work and change someone's life or be able to make an impact on their life. If that's from being a doctor, a PA, to the nurses, to the person that's running the lab and the test in the lab. And so one of the parts of that is being a CNA, and it might be terrible work. But at the end of the day, it's also kind of rewarding too, being able to go in and like talk to them. And, their daughter or sister might be in there. And then you come in later and you'll be like, well, hey, I saw that your sister was in there today. Well, what did you talk about? Or tell me a little bit more about yourself. And so then it kind of like distracts them if they're having a bad day, or just getting to be able to connect with the residents was one of my favorite things to do. And then as a CNA, it just teaches you so many skills. One, it just teaches you it kind of motivates you to do good in school because you can use your CNA as like a stepping stone to become, a PA, doctor, and just stuff like that. But really, at the end of the day, it's about being able to make an impact in their lives is really what I enjoy.
Have you created any unique relationships with a senior or a resident that you didn't expect yourself to kind of connect as much as you have?
Yeah, there's a couple I've really really kind of not taken under my wing, but kind of like that. And I've really enjoyed getting to know them. And they're really telling me about their families. One just turned 100 a couple weeks ago. And so has been able to learn like what they did growing up compared to my time. You know, they lived through the Great Depression. They lived through both world wars. You know, they lived through the 9/11 terrorist attacks. They lived through the COVID pandemic. And just being able to take wisdom from them and be able to learn because, you know, they're full of knowledge. You sometimes people think you kind of like put the residents, the elderly away, and you don't get to see them. Well, there are a lot of them in there are full of knowledge, and they're willing to share their advice that they have. So it was really cool to learn from that and stuff.
Do you know if you want to go into acute or long-term care? Or are you figuring that out?
If I was to decide today, it'd probably be orthopedics first. I'm a big sports fan, especially Husker football and all college athletics in general. But it has kind of changed my mind, maybe a little bit. Keeping an open mind as I go through professional school and stuff.
Outside of the professional work, how has it impacted you as a human being? How do you see, you know, somebody who's 80, 90, or someone who just turned 100 differently than maybe you did a year ago?
Being around them all the time, just being a little more like gentle and more patient with individuals. You know, they're older, so they might take a little bit more time walking to the dining hall. You have to take slower steps, helping them transfer. They have a little thinner skin, so you have to be a little more gentle, kind of like a gentle giant kind of deal because I'm a little bigger than most of my residents. But then even like I also work at Hy-Vee, the grocery store, and having like my elderly come through and just being able to talk to them too and see what they're doing. And a lot of times they come through and I'll be checking their groceries and then they'll start talking about, well, what do you do? And then so you kind of start talking about things with them. So just being able to be gentle and patient with them and just have a good time with them, you know, just create memories.
Benjamin, as we start to wrap it up, is there anybody in your life, maybe a parent or a grandparent or uncle or a neighbor who kind of gave you this big heart where you want to help people every single day?
So being a CNA, you know, you're the front line to everything. You report everything to the nurses that you see, behaviors, like bruises or anything like that, and just being able to show compassion because you are like their caregiver. And so I see that every day with my grandma. My grandpa has MS and is completely chair-bound, and he's fortunate to be able to stay at home because my grandma takes care of him. And he's quite bigger than her, but she has still, through multiple surgeries, been able to still take care of him. So I see that on a first-hand daily basis because without him and her conditional love, it might be a different story for him. So that's what I see every day.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you so much, Benjamin, for joining me on the podcast. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
That's a wrap on People Worth Caring About, born from the documentary Built to Keep the Stories Going. Shout out to Nebraska Healthcare Association and Jaylene Carpenter for helping launch it, and to Ohio and New Mexico for making future seasons real. Watch the docuseries online or at peopleworthcaringabout.com. And if this episode meant something to you, leave a review. It matters. Take care of yourself and the people worth caring about.